One of the things that I most appreciated in the spiritual tradition that I came from in Zen, and Zen really is known as kind of the meditating school, the silent school of Buddhism. And the beauty of that was there was no ambiguity, no confusion about what the foundational orientation or practice was. And that, there's many ways of meditating and approaching meditation. But in essence, it's a kind of listening. And that's the kind of space that I hope that we can come into together. Not just a listening of words. We have this incredible body and mind and spirit. And the whole of the body-mind is a sort of sensory device. It's a way in which our true nature experiences the world, or what we call the world, experiences itself. We're so used to using the body as a kind of a mere tool to get what we want, to accomplish things. And it is a powerful tool. It has its fragility, but nonetheless, it's really quite amazing. But it also has this capacity for all of the senses to come into a deep state of listening. I often suggest when I'm guiding people in meditation to just listen to the quiet spaces inside. There may be a little noise of thoughts, maybe noisy feelings. But there are also quiet spaces, even when there is noise, even when you're feeling agitated or confused, depressed, anxious. There's still quiet spaces. In fact, the foundation of our own awareness, maybe for the moment you can just approach awareness as a kind of scene. Even the scene that says looking at the screen at my image. That the scene itself has an extraordinary quiet quality to it. It has its own kind of presence. A presence that feels a little bit different every day, from hour to hour even, maybe minute to minute. Sometimes it feels quiet and open, sometimes expansive, sometimes just simple and pure, sometimes innocent. Sometimes the presence of awareness feels wise, ancient, timeless. Sometimes it feels fleeting, here but ungraspable, seemingly disappearing and yet never out of sight. In one sense, spirituality is the art of paying attention to what others ignore, to what tends to be devalued so much in human life. And especially in a world where it seems like so much is clamoring for our attention, sometimes insisting on our attention. That this quieter dimension of being just goes unacknowledged, unappreciated. In a way, we're seemingly constantly being asked to define ourselves. What do you think about, just about everything? Nowadays, we all have sort of incredible expanse where we can utilize technology to extend whatever our opinion is about anything. And that has its uses. I'm using the technology right now. But I'm trying to use it not to create more noise, not to make more things that you need to believe in, not really even to give your mind more to understand. My hope is that this opportunity, that this kind of meeting provides, the technology behind it, as that it's a kind of meeting of the heart, you could say. Just something not just of ideas, not even spiritual ideas. Because even spiritual ideas can cover over something that's sort of quietly present, innocent. Something that can't be made into complex ideas. So spirituality in one sense is paying attention to what we generally ignore. Because we can't really grasp the spirit of something, the presence of your own moment of consciousness. You can't turn spirit into a commodity. It seems quite useless sometimes. Because you can't really use that innocence without it eluding your grasp. So I would like us to start the evening in an acknowledgement of the quieter aspect of being. It's not the only aspect, but it's generally the most easily forgotten one. I'd like to be a reminder that we not use spirit or spirituality for egocentric purposes. But instead, kind of let it guide each of us. Let your own awareness take you into it. Take you into itself. And you might be reminded, maybe just in the fleeting sense of your own heart. Of something that may seem fragile because it's unprotected, but is actually indestructible. So it's here that we should meet one another. Where the quiet spaces in each of us can breathe. Where there's room in between the words we say, or even the words we think. Because if we forget this, when spirituality moves away from this simplicity of presence, it gets confused as just another commodity, just something that we can use for our own purposes. It's an interesting thing to kind of turn things around sometimes and see what your spirit wants of you instead of what you want from it. It seems like to me it wants our attention. It wants our heart. I think our spirit wants to remind us of something. For each of you, it may want to remind you of something different, something unique to you. For some, it might remind you of your own innocence. For others, of your loving heart. Some of you, your spirit might want to remind you of your own presence. Of the quiet inside of you. And also of the strength of you, the strength of your spirit. Of the fact that the human heart, the soul, is much more robust, much more resilient than we imagine. It needs to be. Life isn't always an easy thing. It has its valleys and its mountaintops. But can you feel how something holds it all? Something that's so easy to ignore. To forget about. So let's just remember our spirit. And maybe we can together listen from our spirit. Because that's really the reason for these broadcasts. That's the reason for the whole teaching, actually. I don't want to tell you what to think or what to feel or what you should be doing or not doing. I want you to listen to what's inside of you. to what's behind and in the midst of all the comings and goings of life. Of that intangible presence that we cannot grasp, but we cannot truly lose, because it's such an intimate aspect of our own being. It's a noisy world. And tonight I just want to remind you of the quiet spaces within the world. Actually, if you care to notice, the world is much more quiet than it is noisy. If you ever have the doubt about that, go walk somewhere where there are no voices. Walk in the trees and the grass, or along the shoreline, or simply down the sidewalk. And hear your own listening. And feel what you cannot lose. And come back to your heart. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's not broken. It's not damaged. Even if you experience brokenheartedness and damage. There's something within all that that is beyond the harm of the world. And that presence, that heartful, affectionate presence, the world needs that. In that sense, it needs each of us to show up. That, perhaps, is our primary responsibility, to show up. To bring forth what is so easily forgotten by others.